It's Hollie's Hotspurs, welcome back. Talking Tottenham every week, no better place to be sat. If it's a win, lose, draw, we'll be here for a chat. Best believe we tackle topics like Romero at the back. Heung-min Son, what can go wrong when he's on form? It's a dream come true, so sit back, relax and vibe with us. Special guests every time here to discuss. Bring your passion, come along for the ride, and don't forget to subscribe, cause...
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollie's Hotspurs Live, the first one of 2026. And in true Spurs fashion, we're having to talk about dropping points at home to Sunderland. But with me tonight to do so, I'm joined by two fabulous guests. So first of all, I'm joined by Marlon. Marlon, it's great to have you back on the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for the invite, and I'm glad to be back. Just wish it was on better circumstances, but it is what it is.
Oh, I know. I am very sorry. It's one of those things with Spurs, you can never guarantee we're going to actually turn up or do something, even at home these days as well. But it's great to have you on too. And also we're joined by Bob. Bob, welcome back onto the channel. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, all good, other than Spurs, obviously, ruining my new year. But other than that, no complaints. I'm sure we'll get into it in depth now over the next kind of hour or so, or however long we're jumping on for.
Defo, because Night Lou, yeah, I've got a cold as well, so I do apologise for my sniffly voice. But you know, I thought it was a good time. We need to talk about Spurs because it's been winding me up over the last kind of couple of days or months, shall I say, of how we've been playing. So without further ado, welcome to everybody that's tuning in as well. I can see you all in there in the chat. Welcome, thank you very much for tuning in. And without further ado, let's just kind of crack on. Marlon, I'll come to you first because obviously a 1-1 draw against Sunderland. It was a frustrating one, wasn't it? What was your kind of overall thoughts on the game?
So my overall thoughts was we started off okay, and we weren't too bad. Like considering where we've been over the last 4 weeks, and that's a stretch. We wasn't that bad, and I was able to watch it without falling asleep. So I thought it was okay. I thought the second half, Sunderland just kind of came out at us a little bit, and the game was a bit end to end. What ruined Frank, but I kind of don't blame him completely, considering what he had on his bench. As soon as he made those subs, killed it for us. He kind of reverted back to what he knew, and I think that was the biggest problem. Because if we look at Sunderland, I think they've only lost 2 in the last 12. Like, well, I know we're looking at it as a bad result, but actually, when you look at the bigger picture, considering they drew a City a couple of days before, you kind of have to look at it and go, was it because we're at home, and considering how our home form has been, how much of it was a bad result? I think if it was different circumstances, everyone would have looked at it as being like, it's over the Christmas period, we've played how many games in how many days, we haven't been able to rotate as much as everyone would like us to. Was it really that much of a bad result? But I think it's the way it ended. And that's the one that's always going to be the killer. It killed Frank off. But for me, right now, I'm just kind of, I don't know where I'm at with everything with Spurs right now. Like, I'm 50-50 to where camp I'm going in. But all I can say is, at the present moment, I just thought the way the game went probably went as typical to Frank's tenure at the club, where it was an okay beginning, a little bit of a hustle and bustle in the middle, and it's just been a really crap end.
No, that's spot on. And it is true. I think that's the most frustrating thing for me because it started so well, didn't it, Bob? And kind of like Marlon said, it just kind of tailed off, and you knew that goal was coming at some point from Sunderland.
Yeah, I mean, what it really reminded me of was the second Mourinho season, when we were scoring, we were hanging on and on and on, and I've just seen the script, obviously, that season, and then this season you just know it's coming as well. Like, we played well in the first half, second half, we just, and I know it was kind of from those subs is kind of the point that everybody's talking about, but like, they did come out stronger than we did at the start of the second half, and I was thinking, it's just a purple patch, we're playing okay, the crowd were behind us, the crowd were good, and then we just get deeper and deeper, and then the subs came on and we were deeper and deeper and deeper. And unlike Marlon, I've definitely have my side of where I'm kind of thinking on Spurs at the moment. But like, and I know you can say Sunderland are flying. I think that's like optics more than anything, because yeah, they're flying, they've been promoted, they're going well as a promoted team. But if you look at their away form as being poor, they've only won 2 games away from home all season. So it's almost like where their away form is equal to kind of our home form. And that's not saying it in a good way. Obviously, we all know what our home form is like. So I think the game was there for the taking, and we just couldn't turn the screw once we got the screw in there, we just couldn't turn it. And it just epitomizes everything about Frank and kind of where Spurs are at the moment. Which I'm sure we'll have plenty say now over the next while about anyway, because I'm ready to go. But yeah, it was just like, it was literally like that tail end of the Mourinho tenure for myself.
Yeah, no, I do feel that, and I think that's just the most frustrating thing of the whole game. We will get into obviously how those goals kind of came about, but we'll kind of take it right back and we'll go with that starting 11, because Marlon, there was a few peculiar faces kind of starting in that lineup that you probably wouldn't have guessed they were going to start. Obviously, we'll get onto the one that I was probably going to be talking more about, but we'll talk about the first one being Tel, because Marlon, I was glad that he was starting this game.
Yeah, no, I've been kind of calling it for weeks. I think in this system, I think he suits Frank's system, the way Frank wants to play. And I was very surprised that we haven't really seen much of him since the Man United game. Considering he got the equaliser, I was expecting him to start more games, or not even start more games, to feature more as heavily as a sub. And I think he's been on twice or three. I might even get that wrong, but he hasn't featured much. Minutes-wise, he's probably not featured more than 10, 15 minutes since that game. And with the fact that Ben Davies was playing at left back, it helped Tel out a little bit, because it meant that he didn't have an overlapping left back behind him, which meant that he could stay as far forward as possible. He didn't have to look back. Everything was forward. And that's only going to be a positive. The only thing is now is that he was rumoured before the game to be heading out the door. So was it a case of, was he putting him, have Spurs put him in the shop window, a bit like with Brennan Johnson against Palace, where they were like, this is what you're getting. We know we're not going to lose the game. Just make sure you pay up the 30 odd million for him. But with Tel, it was kind of, I was shocked that it was him, considering he has, like, Frank has not even, it's like he's looked on the bench and gone, I'd rather use someone else. It's like he's not really forgiven him for the Super Cup penalty miss himself. But I thought that he had an alrightish game, considering that he hasn't played for months. You could tell he started in the second half, he started to fade off a little bit. But apart from that, I thought he had an okayish game. He didn't have a great game. He just had a game where I looked at it afterwards and went, out of all the left wingers we've had over the last couple of weeks, he's probably had the best performance. And that's saying, again, it says a lot of where Spurs are at the moment, because I'm not sitting there saying he deserves to start every week, because if he didn't start next game, I'd understand. But he didn't put a foot wrong. And I think that was the thing. And every time that he got the ball, he either wanted to dribble it, he wanted to cross it in the box, or he wanted to pass it forward. That was the three things he thought of. If he passed it backwards when he had to, you could tell he wasn't happy with himself. And he just wanted to play a different style. But good on him. Let's see what happens. I think it's going to be a one-off. I don't think it's going to be a constant thing. I don't think we'll hardly see Tel again. But for him, it can only do him the world of good. And if he does get that loan move, at least people actually, whoever is going to get him, will see what he can do.
I think you've kind of put that in my head as well. Is it because he's been put in the shop window? Because it was so bizarre that he was there. And it's frustrating as well, Bob, that he was the one that was kind of that shining light actually going, which also makes me worry that we need to go and get someone potentially, if he does go out the door, to come in and kind of have a better kind of stance on that left-hand side.
Yeah, I thought he was okay. Like, I feel, especially in that first half, he was getting on, he was cutting into that inside left channel, trying to get shots off, trying to link up. Like, his link up play was okay. His game went down when everyone else's game went down. And I think he's the type of player, and I'll give young players kind of the benefit of the doubt on it, which he is, obviously is, that, like, I expect the senior players to be the ones who are playing well and them to fit in there, rather than them to be the ones who are stepping up into that level. And, like, I'm not comparing him with Son, okay? But, like, when Son first started his first season with Spurs, if Spurs played badly, he didn't play well. He was struggling. So I don't mind him, like, settling in. Like, I think we're all pretty fair on young players as a fan base. With regards, Marlon mentioned about Davies playing at left full, it also meant that if you have, certainly with Spence playing left full, he's always trying to get that inside left channel as well. And that's actually been a problem. Like, I know there's a lot of clamour about Ben Davies starting in 2026. But at least if he is to go forward, he stays keeping the width. He's not taking up the same space that winger's trying to get into. But yeah, I thought Tel was good. I don't know. I don't think he's I actually think now, unless we get somebody through the door, I don't think he'll go, especially with Kudus being out injured. So it kind of frees it up, because who are your left wingers at the moment? Odebert, Tel, Xavi Simons. Now with Kudus going, one of those is going to have to push over to the right as cover for the right, and it probably brings gives an extra number on that side. So I don't think he is going unless we get a body in the door, even two bodies in the door. But we're in an awkward state of mind on that left side. We have a load of players who are like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. We don't have anybody who's at 9 out of 10. Are we going to spend a lot of money on when we have 4 or 5 players who can cover there as it is? As well, Kolo Muani, you have Richarlison can cover out that side as well. So we have all these like average players on the left side. So it's kind of our squad dynamic or balance is a little bit off on that side. Whereas the right, with Kulusevski been out, and now Kudus been out, and Johnson been gone, we've suddenly gone from having loads of options to no options now. So we're just kind of, I think our squad dynamic's just a little bit funny at the moment across that front three.
And I think as well, that's potentially why we saw Odebert through the middle as well, Marlon. We were trying to, I know this was before Kudus got injured, but it was interesting to see him chucked in the middle as well. I don't know whether Frank was just trying to trial something, because obviously playing Tel on that side, because it better suits him to go there. It was a weird one, wasn't
it? When I saw the lineup, I actually thought, because I know everyone put that Kudus was going to play behind the striker, but I've heard Frank before. I think he's tried it in the middle of the season where he's tried Odebert at number 10. He said Odebert would be a decent 10. Okay, I don't see it, but if Frank, whatever Frank sees in training, I can't sit there and complain. So I wasn't surprised to see him at the 10, especially when Tel was starting. I thought, okay, so he's going to go. What he was trying to do, and I think this is what was key, was trying to make sure that, because Tel was there, put him in there with someone that he knows he can play well with. Because obviously for the French under-21s, him and Odebert play very well together. So, and usually Tel's either in the centre or he's on the left, and Odebert will switch between depending on whether Tel's playing or not. So I wasn't surprised, but for me, I think Odebert would have been better coming in off the wing and letting Kudus play in the middle. Just use the fact if I go back to PSG in the Super Cup, that's where Kudus kind of played in the central, and I thought he did okay there. But for me, it was a case of, Odebert played in there. It's not someone I'd like to see in there on a regular basis. It's not to say he had a bad game. Again, I'm not saying he sat there and had a bad game, but he didn't get on the ball as much as I'd like. He didn't progress it as much as I thought he would. He didn't get on the ball as much, and it was just kind of, I felt like the game passed him by a little bit with Odebert playing in there. But that was just me. I don't see him as a 10. But if Frank, like I said before, Frank has said that Odebert was an option. You know, when Xavi Simons came through the door and he said, I think it was all about, he can play there, and he was playing Bergvall there, but he said, I remember he did mention Odebert, so I wasn't surprised, but I just don't think that's his game. I think he's an out-and-out winger. But for me, with Odebert, as soon as he was starting, I knew he weren't going to have a good game. He only ever seems to have a good game when he's coming on a sub. But again, because of the bodies and how many bodies we've got at the moment, he had no choice.
And I think that, again, I know we've touched on it now, losing Kudus, Bob, and obviously having Kolo come out there. I don't think Kolo had a horrific game. He just had a lot of touches sometimes in that indecisiveness, but I think we have that riddled across the whole squad at the minute.
Yeah, I feel like it looks like they're all second guessing every single thing they do. And obviously, look, Premier League, we all know how quick a league it is. You don't have that extra split second. If you have that split second, somebody's on you. If somebody's on you, you're going to have a bad touch. Now, I was probably I am willing Kolo Muani on. I haven't willed somebody on as much as Kolo Muani has since Rebrov played for us. I really want him to do well. He was frustrating though. There was one point in the first half where he had a bad touch on the right side. Then he squared it behind a player pretty soon after that. I think he looks a little bit awkward or something. I think he's just had a frustrating time. I actually think he sums up Spurs this season as a whole. It's been frustrating. He might have one good game, a bad game. He gets a run, then he gets injured, and it's just been kind of our season for it. It mirrors what our season's been like. Obviously, when he came, he was injured for a while. Then he had to get his fitness up as soon as he played. Then he had this mysterious dead leg injury. He was out for a while. I just don't think it's happened, and he hasn't got that clear run in it. And I feel at the end of the season, he probably we won't extend the loan, and we'll just be written off as, do you remember he played for us for a season on loan? I found him a bit frustrating on the weekend. But I think it was more sharpness or something. It's that he's not getting that run in it, and we double that up with the fact that I don't think a lot of them know what they're doing from a tactical standpoint, and you just don't have that split second. And even coming back, Martin, to what you're saying about Odebert playing the 10, if you're playing out wide, you have the touchline to defend you from defenders. You don't have your back to play as much. You can see what's in front of you a lot more. If you're picking it up in a 10 pocket and you're not playing there every single week, your time is gone. It's the same if you're playing as a 6 and you're picking it up from the back 4 and you're trying to take it on the half turn and pick a pass then. You just don't have that unless you're absolutely sharp. And I think to put him in at 10, to say it was unfair on him is probably the wrong word, because look, what else could we do? But it's just kind of sums up where we are at the moment. Everything's a bit all over the place.
I mean, to sum it up even more, to be Ben Davies, the one on the score sheet, bless him, Marlon, it kind of epitomises what we're kind of doing at Spurs at the moment.
Yeah, it was quite funny because I know when that lineup came out, everyone saw Ben Davies. Everybody, 90% or 99% of the Spurs fan base went, "You want to get the sack." And that's literally what you saw just coming out on social media. However, I wasn't that disappointed with it at first. I got it. And I did think what he's going to try and do, because especially when he put Archie Gray in there, and I knew Archie Gray was going to try and play further forward. And with Tel being in there, it just meant he wanted to be a bit more solid, because Spence, I don't think, has had the best couple of weeks at left back. He's been good, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't been the Spence that we have kind of seen for the first part of the season that got into that England squad. And I feel like he's just letting it go by. The game's letting him drifting by a little bit with Spence at the moment. And especially with Porro not playing well at right back, everyone's been on his case. So when I saw Ben, I thought, okay, I can see where he's going. If there's a bit of trouble, or if he wants to go forward, at least I think what he was going for was that Romero, Van der Ven and Ben Davies would be like a back 3. That's what I thought he was going for. I didn't see it, but that's what I thought he was going for, because Ben, there's no way Ben was going to get up that touchline. But I was so pleased for him when he did score, because actually and up until probably the 60th, 70th minute, when he could tell he was starting to feel a bit, where he hasn't played all season, he was starting to feel it a little bit. I thought he was actually had a decent game up until that point, because he didn't really let much go past him. Everyone was a bit worried about his pace. He read the game quite well. And it all seemed okay up until when Sunderland obviously came out in that second half. And then he started to struggle a little bit, because the amount of game time he's had, he's never going to be match fit completely. But no, good on him. Do I want to see him every week? No, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to see him every week. But there's going to be certain games this season, and probably more at home, where I'd go, actually, they're the best games to bring him in. Because if he wants to adapt the formation a little bit, where he can move Porro so far forward, he can have Archie Gray in there, Bergvall in there, Bentancur doesn't have to always look back. Maybe that's when a Ben Davies does come in. But at the present moment, it's just a case of, it's so chaotic at Tottenham. And especially with Ben Davies, he's outlasted Daniel Levy at the moment, and he managed to score the first goal 2026. That's a bingo card I never thought I'd see.
100%. I mean, to begin with, I thought Mickey van der Ven had scored, and it wasn't when I watched the replay, Bob, that I realised it was Ben Davies. I mean, it was bizarre how much time and space Romero had in the box to chest the ball down, find Mickey, and then obviously Davies to pin it into that bottom corner. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it looked like he overhit the corner. Now, I know we scored against West Ham by that back post, knocking it back. We've done it, but it looked like a bad corner. And then, yeah, I was kind of with you. I kind of thought Van de Ven had scored. And if you actually look at the replay, what I noticed was the relief on Van de Ven's face. He looked like, it sounds strange, I just saw it. He looked like a player who felt under pressure and felt like there was a weight on his shoulders, and that I was like, oh, he's obviously scored. And then, it was only the replay, and it was quite obviously Davies' goal. It wasn't like a nick, it wasn't a bad finish. But I've gone with Martin. I thought he Like, I saw it kind of like, you know what? Spence has played a few games. They're playing every second, third day at the moment. I didn't mind, didn't hate it. And then thought he played pretty well. Like, he didn't do anything that offended me, or I'd say anyone. I mean, people will see Davies and just use it as a stick to beat people with, but like, he did okay. And sorry, I've gone on a tangent there. I can't even remember what you asked me. But yeah, I thought he was okay. I'm happy for him. I said, not one you thought would be on your 2026 bingo card on the third day of the year. But yeah, I thought he did well.
No, he did do well. And I think for Mickey as well, that's 7 assists for Mickey now. The only thing is, though, Marlon, it's worrying that our defenders are the ones that are picking up the goals and picking up the assists.
I'm pretty sure we had a similar problem last year as well, where the defenders were picking up more goals than what the other players, outfield players, until Brennan Johnson started hitting form. But look, I think when you clearly see that we haven't scored a goal from open play for, I can't even remember when now, I don't even know who it was against. It summed up really where we are getting our goals from, and it is our defenders. It's going to be from corners, set pieces, and at this present moment, you can see where we're clearly going wrong. Thank God for the defenders, but at the same time, they can't keep clean sheets. So I don't know which one I'd prefer, because if you take the Brentford game for talking purposes, where it was a boring 0-0, would I take that, or would I take where a defender scores and the 1-0 against Sunderland? And at this present moment, for the way the game went against, I'd rather take that than 0-0. But we are where we are, I think, and it is frustrating. But I think, was it Wednesday? I think after the interview on Wednesday with Frank, you could clearly see he doesn't trust our front players, our forward-thinking players. The fact they've allowed Brennan Johnson to go out the door and not actually have a replacement for these 2 games just sums it all up. I think for him, if he was to outlast and he doesn't get the sack, okay, just looking at it, if he was to, this time next year, we will not see a Tel. I don't think we'll see a Richarlison. I don't think the only person we'll see in that front 3 will be a Kudus. I think everyone else, if he could tomorrow, he'd get rid of, and he'd upgrade them all. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, defensively, yeah, the fact that they're our top goal scorers just sums up everything that right now with Thomas Frank.
It really does. Go on.
Sorry, Ali, just from like as I said, where you are as a club, and I think it's worrying for Spurs to have their 2 centre halves as their best 2 players, and they're kind of marquee players. Yep. There's no standout marquee player at the moment. For years, we'd Kane, we'd Son, we'd Bale, we'd Ginola, we had Sheringham, Keane. Like, these are all attacking players. Like, you know, like you think of a Spurs player, you think like the number 10, Glenn Hoddle. Like, for me, I'm 36. Like, my first favourite player was Teddy Sheringham. Then Robbie Keane played. I'm Irish. I obviously loved him. Like, we don't have that anymore. Like, there's no... Now, fair enough. Look, Maddison's injured. Kudus is injured. Like, we are unlucky with injuries, but there's no standout player who's going to get people off their seat, who, you know, they're going to be running down the wing. You're going to, the old cliche of hearing the wooden seats hit the, you know, like you hear all the old lads saying that, like, but like, you don't have that anymore. And like, we're not about that as a club. We're a club that is about the attacking players. And yes, like conceding 3, scoring 4, like that's Tottenham. And like that lot down the road aren't about that. They're doing now what they're built, you know, what they've won on. Sorry to bring them up in the pod, but like, we are the North London team. There's a Tottenham way, and that sounds so cringy. And I know I say it to my friends who are United fans, they're like, "What are you, Tottenham way?" Like, it is the Tottenham way, and that's the way we're playing. And the factor too. Now, I love Mickey Van de Ven and I love Christian Romero, but like, our best 2 players should never at Spurs be our centre halves.
No, it's a valid point, and I think again that just kind of highlights where we are in terms of a club. And obviously, it is the January transfer window, so hopefully we do get some attacking players in. But I think that was the most frustrating thing, and I'll stick with you, Bob, was obviously because we had to get that second goal, and I know we've touched on it in players. If Tel wasn't potentially going to get a goal, or Richarlison, but that's the biggest issue. We had to go and seal that second goal, and we don't have that killer instinct with that kind of forward line.
But you're not going to get a second goal when you play with 2 holding midfielders back. Your back 4 are deep, your midfielders are deep, and then there's a massive gap between your front 3 and your back 6, if you look at it that way. Like, how do you expect to get the ball up? Like, how many times in the Brentford game, sorry, you're getting me going now, how many times in the Brentford game did you see the ball just been booted up the pitch by Parra, and there'd been a gap of about 60 yards between the midfield and the front 3? And then like Richarlison gets the ball. He's actually not bad at holding the ball up for all his faults. But like, who's around him? Who's running off him? Who's making runs? How you can expect for that to be, any sort of tactic of scoring goals? Like, I think Thomas Frank's way of defending a lead are, be it us getting a second goal or not. Okay, to me, it's you can't score a goal if you don't have the ball. So rather than us keeping the ball and trying to keep control of the game and possession, he just wants to put on two holding midfielders and sit deep and welcome it on. And this comes back to what I was saying about that Mourinho second season. We did the exact same thing then, and you could see it coming. I knew that goal was coming from Sunderland. Like, you could feel it. And you know what? I'm surprised there wasn't another goal scored by them in the last 5-10 minutes. Like, and if we had have lost 2-1, I don't think any of us would have come away from the game saying, how did that happen? Like, geez, I don't know how we managed to lose that game. We managed to drop points there because of how we were set up and because we didn't go on for that second goal. And yeah, we probably could have got a second goal in the first half. But come half time, he obviously went in and said, look, let's keep it tight. You could almost hear him saying, let's keep it tight. That's top player football. You can hear him saying it. Like, rather than saying, keep the momentum going and turn that screw. And yeah, sorry to go on about them again, but that club down the road do that. And they will get the second goal. We saw them against Bournemouth the other day. They turned the screw. They were 1-0 down. They went 3-1 up. Once they scored the second goal, they made sure they got a third. They conceded in injury time. They were never going to lose that game. I'm sorry, I hate them. Like, I absolutely, right now I hate them more than I love Spurs. But like, if you compare us to them, where we were that time we beat them to get Champions League football, we were ahead of them. And now look, like, how have we fallen this far behind them in 4 years? I was at that game, one of the best nights I've ever had at Spurs. And days, it was unbelievable. I'm not sure if you guys were at it. Atmosphere was great. You were like, we are kicking on now. We're leaving them behind. And it's gone the opposite way. Now, there's bigger issues. There's macro issues with the club and how the club is run. But it's not helped when, when you are in a position to win, we don't turn the screw. And that's exactly what happened. We tried to defend the lead by sitting back and defending rather than actually keeping the ball. And like, this whole thing about like we don't have the players to do it. Like, am I allowed curse in this podcast? Like, it's a load of fucking bollocks. Like, I'm sorry, you look at Palace's midfield. They had the young lad from up Northern Ireland, and they had Will Hughes. Like, don't get me wrong, Will Hughes, what a player, what a servant to the game, journeyman, yeah, absolutely. But Will Hughes is never getting into a Spurs team, and I'm sorry, he's still not getting into a Spurs team. Like, I don't even know who Sunderland said Xhaka. Fair enough, Xhaka's a good player, but he's old. He's coming back for a swan song in the Premier League. Henderson's my age. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not dominating the midfield. Like, Bentancur can pass a ball. I don't care. He can pass a ball. We've seen him do it. I know he's not the same player he was when he came, since pre-injury Bentancur. And I don't think he's ever going to get back to that level. But Archie Gray can pass a ball. These are professional players playing for Spurs. Archie Gray's bought for 40 million. You're telling me he can't pass a ball and control the game? Like, there's definitely Bergvall can pass. Like, there's players there who last season under Ange, when we were at rock bottom, we were playing Archie Gray at centre half, and he was able to pass a ball from centre half. Like, I think this thing that we don't have the players is a lot of shite. Like, we do have the players there. I'm not saying they're the best. It's the best midfield we've ever had. I'm not comparing it to prime Modric. I'm not doing that. I'm not talking about Dembele, Wanyama, Eriksen. We don't, grant, but we certainly should have players who are good enough to control a game against Nottingham Forest, against, now, fair enough, Adrian is a good player, against Palace, we shouldn't be worried about this.
No, and I think that's the most worrying thing, because there was a significant change, and I know we've spoken about it, and I don't know whether it's Frank said something at half time. I know you touched on it, Bob, but for you, Marlon, what was the kind of, did you feel it coming? Did you feel that Sunderland were going to score?
So there was two big key moments for me in that game that completely changed the game, and where I could understand where Frank was coming from, because there was two moments that I think a lot of people forget. When we were going for that second goal, there was a bit where Conan Moani got the ball, he was in front of goal, and his first touch was so bad, it ends up going towards the corner flag. Now, a player that's on form will take it towards goal, and he probably goes to get that second. Okay, so that was phase one. But then there was another part where Richarlison, he's clean through, and he's going out to the right, he can either do two things. He can either go for goal or he plays it across. He ends up playing it to a Sunderland player. Now, this is the problem with these players. Now, I get what Bob's saying, but the decision making at the moment is so bad. And it was like this last year with most of them. And this is the bit where you're kind of going, okay, it was an Ange problem, and now we've got a Thomas Frank problem. Now, when you're looking at those two situations in hindsight, if we go and score the second goal, I think we go on and win that game. Because even though Sunderland were coming back into it, they didn't really have a shot on target. Like if you go and look at the stats between it, they were having shots, but none of them were on target. They were coming at us, but we were able to cope with it. And then we have two chances now. If we're talking about elite players, if we have a Harry Kane or Son, we're scoring them. If those are the days when we used to see the Son and Kane just put them in. If we were starting to get pressure on us, we'd get a chance like that, put it in. But when you're getting players now starting to make these silly decisions when they're on the pitch, you kind of go, okay, I get that Frank's tactics are not working, but those are two chances that, let's be honest, Kolo Muani is a 90 million euro player that he went from Frankfurt to PSG. So he can't be that bad. He just doesn't look like he wants to be here at the moment. I've said it from day one. He just doesn't look like he wants to be here. Richarlison, he's only started scoring now. Is it because we're a relegation form team? Because Richarlison's never known to be scoring for a team that's high up. When we were doing well, he wasn't scoring. Now he's scoring for us. And it's kind of frustrating. So, and then I have to go and look at the bench. So he got into that moment and you're like, okay, Sunderland was starting to coming back into it. What does he do? And I understood what he did. I didn't agree with it. And that was the problem because it just allowed Sunderland to come. Because what obviously Paulinho and Bentancur did, which is what Bob mentioned earlier, we sat back and back and back and back. So you could clearly see it was coming. And yes, if Sunderland, like as Bob said, if it would have finished 2-1, I'd have been like, you know what, fair result in the end because Sunderland actually went for it and we didn't. But we just couldn't get hold of the ball. None of the players could find each other. And it's just like, I'm getting to the point of going, okay, for some of them, if it's Paulinho or Kudus, I'm like, you weren't here last year. So I'm not going to judge you. But most of them were doing this last year. And this is now where I'm kind of like, where do we go from here? Because if they were doing it last year, they're doing it this year. And the only player that really is standing out so far this year is Van der Ven and Kudus to a certain extent. And Kudus has fallen off the ball in the last month or so. So I'm like, okay, Sunderland didn't score. They didn't score the second. They should have probably, but they didn't really threaten our goal as much as they were on the ball, but they didn't really do much with it. And it was just a case of the goal that Bobby scored, by the way, was a bloody great finish. Like, no matter how we want to put it, it was a bloody brilliant finish. But we should be rolling teams over like Sunderland. But at the present moment, no matter what we're doing, we just can't seem to be doing it. And that is the most frustrating thing, is that we can clearly see that we've got some decent players. I'm not going to call them good players, but if I look at it, how many of them will probably get into the top 8 side? Some of them wouldn't. From the way they're playing this season, you'd have to question and this is why everyone's questioning our recruitment. But for me, I question our recruitment on the players and the manager, because when we employed Thomas Frank, I had a lot of questions, and I'm still today. He hasn't answered any of them. And the club, yes, look, at the end of the day, Daniel Levy left only in September. We all said that under ENIC and this ownership, it was going one way. So it ain't going to change in the last 6 months. We have to be honest with ourselves. But we are where we are. And it's a case of, do we stick or twist? Because this is the next window. The first window, to be fair, the summer window weren't that bad. But he hasn't played Paulinho for the last month. Kudus is in and out. He's been off form. So you kind of have to go, where our problems are. Will they be rectified is the biggest question.
I'm glad you've mentioned that, Marlon, because this is the biggest hot topic at the moment, whether we're going to stick or twist with Frank. I mean, I still don't really know where I stand. I know it's not working, but I can't be asked to keep going around this managerial circus. But I also know if things aren't ticking now, where we stand at the end of the season or the next season. I mean, for Bob, where do you kind of sit with Frank and our recruitment, and what your kind of hopes are that we do in January?
I hope I see a corner flag on Twitter tomorrow morning. Honestly, I want him gone. I feel bad saying this because he seems like quite a good man. Like, I think he's a good person, and I'm awkward. Like, when you see the videos of him getting booed going down the tunnel, I feel awkward even watching them. Okay, like, he seems a good man, but he's out of his depth. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's second guessing himself. The players second guessing him. He's lost the crowd. He's lost the away fans as well. Once you lose the away fans, you're gone. Like, we saw that last season with Ange when he cupped the ears at the Chelsea game. He was gone after that. Like, you can't really come back after that unless you win a European trophy. But I would sack him in the morning. I'd bring Harry Redknapp in at the end of the season.
I do
And I know
love
it
Harry
sounds,
Redknapp.
but I honestly think, like, Harry Redknapp and Javi Simmons, what a match made in heaven. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but I know I'm listening to myself. I'm like, this is such a ridiculous statement that I have to qualify by, like, backing it up. But, like, who else is there on a caretaker? Ryan Mason, probably about to get sacked from West Brom. Not having him again. Glenn Hoddle, not having him again. I'd love it. It'd be great. It'd be romantic. But Harry, he'd bring a bit of a buzz around the place. Jamie Redknapp might actually talk some nice about us on Sky. Like, bring him back. Get the vibes in. I'm actually for that. I'd be all over it. And then bring the real main man back.
Well, just quickly, because you mentioned something earlier, and I just wanted to ask you your opinion on this, because you said about, obviously, Vinay's come from Arsenal, and you mentioned Arsenal before. Now, you just said that once you've lost the away fans, it's time up. But Arsenal stuck with Arteta when he lost the home and the away fans. Do you think Vinay is thinking the exact same thing with Frank?
So I have had this conversation with somebody. What saved Arteta's job, in my opinion, was it was COVID and it was behind closed doors. I think if he had been playing in full stadiums every week, I know towards the end people were kind of filtering back into stadiums, and the first season back when we were in stadiums, I think was when they finished 5th and we finished 4th that season. I think I'm right in saying that, because Nuno,
I think that was the first full season.
First full season. Yeah. So I think and he had no case.
That was Amazon Prime year for them, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he actually had no case season that season. I think if they had been in full stadiums, I don't think he would have survived it.
It's been interesting because obviously Vinay has obviously had that. I obviously think that Frank's our Unai Emery in this. I just think he's not the right fit.
Yeah, and that's okay. And, like, you know, but look, it's only worth sacking a manager if you have a better option to come in. Like, there's no point in sacking Thomas Frank and bringing in, you know, somebody from the Championship, bringing in Ryan Mason. I'm not saying that, but, like, I'm also pining after Pochettino. Like, it's a scratch I have to itch, and until we do it, I will always have that in
Never
me.
go back to an ex.
I don't care.
Do you know what? And it's really weird you say that, because I think a lot of Spurs fans are exactly the same. I think it's because of the way he left, and everyone just wants it to. And obviously, it will give it 6 months, and everyone will be like, okay, now I remember why.
If it didn't, at least then you know, and you have closure on it.
Yeah,
and
I think everyone needs closure.
And I feel I just need that, and until I get that, I'll never fully back manager.
Do you know what? I mentioned that I take Martin O'Neill for 6 months, even because what he did at Celtic, he got the players on board, but he's had more recent managerial experience than Harry Redknapp, and then that's what we want the players playing. And I think
as an Irish man,
I know you can't have him, but that's where my head is going, because out of everyone that we've mentioned, like, unless Robbie Keane wants to come back and do a job, because even he's doing a great job at French.
He is, but I think he needs a bigger job.
Yeah,
he does. And, like, again, I'm Irish.
But again, it goes down the Arteta route, doesn't it? Because Arteta didn't have a big job; he just wasn't Man City. So if someone like Robbie Keane was to come in, who knows Spurs, because I think that's the bit that everyone's kind of, at this present moment, Thomas Frank was in love with Arsenal. Just Cochrane is an Arsenal fan, and he's in love with it. And Vinay's come from Arsenal. So a lot of it's, look, they don't feel Tottenham. And I think
they don't get the club. And they don't get the Tottenham way we mentioned.
Because the fact he mentioned them the other day and said the club I can't mention, that just says it all. It's just like, you don't want to be here anymore. You kind of
he doesn't get it.
He doesn't get it,
and that's the thing. He just doesn't get it. And calling out the fans like he did, saying we're not real fans. Now I kind of know what he's saying. Like, I do kind of get what he's saying. Like, and I wouldn't be one to. I'd feel awkward booing, especially a keeper making a mistake. I don't think it's going to improve the keeper. But like coming out and saying it, you're like, what good is coming from that? Especially when, and fair enough, if he was dominating every single week and we were wiped, if Pochettino said that in prime Pochettino, people wouldn't bat an eyelid. They wouldn't say, oh, he's saying we're not real fans. Wouldn't be mentioned. But he has no credit in the bank to be saying stuff like that. And like, again, I feel bad even saying this because he seems a good person. If it was Conte, like I actually quite like Conte, but if it was Conte, you'd kind of be like, you know what? Like, you can get sacked. I don't care. But like, I don't like the idea of not liking Frank, but I think you just shake hands. We go our separate ways. He was a bad hire. It's like somebody not passing probation in the real world job. Not for you. We'll give you a reference. We'll make sure you're looked after. Go on ahead. And by the way, he'll be looked after if he leaves. Like, he's getting a good 6 million probably in his pocket. Like, to be fair to Forest, like, they were ruthless. They brought Ange in. It didn't work. And then they've died in and they've settled.
I think this is the most worrying thing because with the January transfer window, we're going to invest in what Frank wants, and then we're going to have to start the cycle all over again. I think that's my only caveat to the conversation in terms of I don't really know what to think anymore because you sack Frank and then we have to start again. But if you don't sack Frank, you're going to have to start again further down the line. It's where we want to stand with this board because it is the biggest decision that they had to make since Daniel Levy leaving, and they're not going to want to backtrack on what they've done just yet. I don't think that's my only kind of thought.
Like,
on the whole thing.
If you're in a toxic relationship and you have a holiday booked, do you still go on holiday, or are you telling your friend not to go on that holiday? You're like,
Go on holiday.
don't worry. Exactly, And like, yeah, if we bring like, and let's be honest, like, you bring in a good manager, they can work with probably what's in front of them, unless it's like an Amarim situation where you have a strict formation you play. But just taking Pochettino, just for conversation's sake, like, you give Pochettino that squad now, plus a couple of other players. So let's say we sign Diamande and an AN other midfielder. Like, Pochettino will get something out of that squad. Like, I guarantee you, with Pochettino in there, we finish higher than we do now. Like, we finish, we're in fifth spot. We're at least in fifth spot now, given how tight it is.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, only time will tell. But before that kind of time comes to an end or continues, we do have a game on Wednesday against Bournemouth. So, Marlon, how do you see this one going? Because obviously it is away and they put up a very good fight against them lot. I know we've mentioned loads on this show tonight, but it will be a very tough game.
It's going to be a stink fest. We know it is. It'll be pretty similar to how the Brentford game went, if not. I'm going by what had happened at home, and that's very key to all this because Bournemouth literally were just on us. They knew what we were going to do, and they completely just stifled us completely. I actually think he might get a result on Wednesday because Bournemouth ain't been great. They actually turned up against Arsenal, but they still conceded 3 goals. Defensively, they can be got at. Yes, we don't score goals. I got a feeling if Frank goes there, gets the point, and we move on. And that's as honest as I can be because he did the same against Brentford. He did the same against Palace and actually got 3 points. He didn't go there for the win. He went there to get a draw and he got a win, right? Luckily. And then I think he'll do the same again.
How about you, Bob?
It's going to be like 1-0 either way. We're going to get like a bit of sleep, maybe 1-1. We might be looking to see 2 goals. We're going to see a lot of balls booted up the pitch. Like, it's going to be 1-0, 1-0, 0-0, 1-0. That's what it's going to be. What way is it going to go? Who knows? But it's going to be one of those.
Yeah, it's going to be a horrible watch, I think.
It's going to be a terrible watch.
For us as fans, for the neutral, for everyone.
Like, why can we normalise that? Why can we just say, like, we're talking now, we're like, oh, it's going to be a horrible watch. Like, we all, like, why do we watch football? It's a form of escapism. It's an entertainment. Like, yeah, we love Spurs because we're so deeply invested. But, like, we sit down to enjoy it and watch it. And not, like, Like, I'm literally sitting down and I'll say, "Oh, why do you think tonight's going to go?" And like, it's going to be like watching paint dry. It's so boring at the moment. I'm on my phone half the time. I'm like not cheering if we score. I'm not even invested. If we concede, when we conceded against Arsenal, I punched the table, which is probably problematic. Okay, but I gave it a little bang. Okay, I'm so far past that. I'm apathetic towards it. I like a little vent, a little rant, but like I'm such apathy towards Spurs at the moment that if we win, I'm like, good. If we lose, you might get sacked. That's where I am.
Yeah.
And here I am on a podcast.
And Frank will want to protect that away record because, unfortunately or fortunately, it's the best. It's the best in the league, and that's why we're normalising these boring games away, because we are top of that form table away from home, and he needs points on the board. And I think that's how he's going to look at it, because that's how he saw Palace and and Brentford. He went, I got 4 points.
Yeah, 4 points from 6.
6.
And like, two tough away days in the Premier League. You can hear him saying it. I actually have stopped watching his press conferences. I don't think, like, I used to watch every single press conference. I haven't watched one in, I'd say, about 2 months. And you see him saying, that is a top performance. And like, was it? Sorry, I'm going now.
I can tell, Bob. It's good though. That's why this show is a therapy session every Monday after a Spurs poor performance. So yeah, it is going to be a horrible watch, which is depressing. Like I say, I'm so out of touch with Spurs at the minute in terms of I'm getting near the point where I'd probably turn it off at half time, and I've never ever done that ever. That's what we're getting to now. But obviously we have also got that Villa game at the weekend, so we'll quickly touch on that very quickly. I mean, for you, Marlon, it'd be nice to stay in the cup, wouldn't it? Have something to cheer for.
He can't lose that. I think if he loses that, a lot of us are going to lose our shit. And the reason why I say that is he's basically buried his own look, because he's come out and said we finished 17th, we finished 17th, we finished 17th last year. These are the excuses that he's coming out with now. But one thing he hasn't mentioned is we were a good cup team last year. We got to a semi-final of the League Cup. Yeah, we got knocked out in the 4th round by Villa after 3 days after being in the semi-final, and we won the Europa League. So these players obviously can play cup games. We got knocked out as soon as we played one decent team in League Cup, so they've lost that. So he's lost that credibility already. So he cannot lose this game, because once he loses this game, we're done. Because the FA Cup at the moment, unfortunately for him, is the one where we can keep that run going and keep him in a job. And it'll be a bit like how it was with Ange last year, where he had the Europa League, and it was kind of like until he loses it, he'll be gone. And then he won it, and he went anyway.
I think that's the most annoying thing, because, again, not to talk on the past, but Ange, although we had an awful Premier League form, and I get it, we probably couldn't have taken him into this season, I just felt the team were together, and you could see that those players were playing for him in those cup games, and there was and now we kind of don't really have that. But I'm going off tangent. So, Bob, for you, the Villa game, all important. So, how do you see it going down? Is it going to work?
I would say we lose 2-1, and then that's effectively season over, isn't it? Like, I'm sorry if I'm pessimistic. I don't think we're winning the Champions League this season.
You never know.
Imagine we did.
Oh my god.
I think if he loses it, he's gone, isn't he? Like, I think he really has to be gone. And yeah, I can't see us beating them. I think they're playing really well. They remind me of us under Pochettino when they were just flying, and they're a really nicely balanced team. They have a manager who gets their club. I think he's the second best manager in the league. I think he's a great manager.
He does like to make a lot of changes for cup games, even against us last year.
Maybe, yeah.
And this is the thing that always you and I always got done for. When he, apart from Europe and the league, he tends to make a lot of changes for you, and that's maybe a bit that can fall into our favour a little bit.
Yeah, and he's probably prioritising that Europa League this season because it's an easier one trophy to win. I don't like to say that, but it probably is. But yeah, look, could we win? Of course we could. You know, like, there shouldn't be, again, that's another thing. There shouldn't be a big gap between us and Villa. It just shows how the clubs have been run. I'm actually flying to Miami on Saturday, so I'm missing the game. And normally I'd be fuming, but now I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to take off, I'm going to land, I'll check the score, and we'll see what happens.
That is a blessing in disguise, my friend. But no, it will be, I was going to say, an interesting week ahead of us, but I feel like it's not going to be entertaining for us at all. But you never know. We might be sat here come next week and might be a totally different story to talk about. But after tonight, it's been great to sit with both of you and the chat about a 1-1 draw against Sunderland. We'll go around the table, say our goodbyes. So first of all, Marlon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Hollie, thank you for having me on. Happy New Year to all your listeners. You can find me at Spurs Kings TV. We actually do have a show at 10 o'clock tonight. So if you guys if you're still up, come over and support us with that. Well, that's going to be an interesting conversation because we've had a lot of Frank-ins on our show in the last week or so. So it'd be quite interesting to see if any of them have changed. But apart from that, that's where you can find me. And please make sure you like and subscribe to Hollie as well.
No, thank you so much. Make sure you go and check out Spurs Kings TV as well, and make sure you're subscribing and all that good stuff over there. And also, Bob, thank you very much for joining us tonight too. Where can everybody find you doing your thing?
Yeah, I mean, just on Twitter, Bob_Spurs is my name there. And just to caveat, I'm normally the most positive, delusional Spurs fan. After the Burnley game this season, I was like, we're going to win the league. Okay, like I am delusional at times. I've just been driven into toxicity at this stage. Okay, so I like to apologize for my negativity and my toxicity. But yeah, we'll get there. We'll be back.
Hopefully so. But no, it's been lovely to have you both on tonight. And like I say, thank you to everybody that's tuned into the show live, that's going to be rewatching this later on. I do really, really appreciate it, which kind of leads me to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Go check out these two as well and their content. And until next time, come on, you Spurs.